here is probably one of the seemingly stupidest questions that you're ever going to encounter when you get to a job interview. Whether you're doing a virtual job interview over teleconferencing, like a Zoom call or something, or you're in person, this is a particular favorite question of recruiters the world over. They love this question, and it has created a ton of confusion around it. Let's dive into how you answer the question. So why should I hire you? Okay. Let's get some obvious stuff out of the way first. If they ask you this question, why should I hire you? Don't say, well, why would I want to work here? Okay? Trust me, that is not a good answer for multiple reasons. First of all, you're kind of being a little bit of a jackass. Secondly, it doesn't make any sense from the perspective that you applied for this job. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, you know, you're the one that obviously wants the job, or you wouldn't have applied. What the hell are you doing here if you don't want the job? You know what I mean? Why should we have to make a case to you? You're the one that applied. Secondly, it's just a bad response. I mean, do you not know the company? That's what it also signals, right? Like if this is an organization that's posting a job, do you not know like what this company is? Like presumably you know who we are. That's why you want to work for us, right? So don't say that. It's a bad answer. I know that there are people out there that are recommending this answer. Don't say it, okay? But listen, if you don't want to listen to me or anyone, try it and see what the reaction is. Okay, the other thing, when they say, why should I hire you, or why should we hire you? Don't say, because I don't want to starve, right? Okay. Once again, that's a bad answer. And it's also signaling that you don't even understand what the question is, okay? Because you see, the way they mean this question is it's not about you, it's about them. They're not saying, why should we hire you? That's not what they're saying. They're saying, why should we hire you specifically instead of someone else? Okay, this question is about you, not them, okay? You know, it depends who's talking here, I suppose. But the point is, they're not asking if you need a job. They're saying, well, why should we hire you instead of somebody else? That's the idea behind the question. Why you specifically? Why shouldn't we just go with another candidate, right? That's actually what they're asking you. So what this is, in fact, it's an invitation for you to go and sell yourself. You have an open floor. Now tell us, what's so great about you? Why should we pick you instead of somebody else? Here is your chance to shine, okay? We're giving you the floor. That's basically what this question is, okay? Now, in order to understand the question and how to answer it, you need to understand this. A recruiter's job is to find a list of candidates who meet a list of requirements. That's what recruiters do. They are paid to find candidates who all meet a list of requirements. That's what recruiters do for money, okay? This is their 9 to 5. They don't just find someone that they think will do the job. They are paid very specifically to find certain individuals that meet a list of requirements, okay? So therefore, that's what recruiters care about. When you go to a job interview, they're thinking, okay, does this person meet all the requirements, okay? And as you start talking, they're listening for the requirements that they have, and they're thinking like, okay, they meet this one, check. And then, oh, okay, good, they meet this one, check, right? Some things they might ask you about specifically. And if you give a satisfactory answer, they'll do another little check beside that, right? Others, they're not going to ask you about specifically. They're going to see if you will bring it up independently, okay? You know, things like, you know, having good social skills or having good charisma. They might not ask you, do you have charisma? They'll be assessing your presence in the interview to see if you have charisma, and then if you do, they'll make another little check, right? That's what they do. Okay, so this is how recruiters think. They think in terms of requirements. Okay, they are doing two things in every job interview. One is detecting red flags, things that, you know, maybe they're not specifically looking for, but If you exhibit them, it could be really bad. For example, having a bad temper, right? They might not be specifically trying to detect if you have an even temper, but if they notice that, you're very aggressive and irritable and you have a very short fuse in an interview, they're going to obviously see that as a red flag. So one of the things that they do is they look for red flags. The other thing they do is look for the requirements. That's what recruiters do. Okay. Now, here is the way, I'm just going to say it, here is the way I recommend that you answer this question. Okay. If they say to you, I got a couple of cameras here, so I'm just going to make use of them. If they say to you, where is it here? I just deleted all my notes, but that's fine because, if this was easy, then where would the fun be, right? Okay, if they say to you, why would you want to work here? This is the answer I recommend. You start off by saying, well, as I understand it, you're looking for someone who, and then you go down the list of requirements that was mentioned in the job description. So for example, in the job description, they said they're looking for someone with 5 years experience in this and a certain educational qualification and certain skills, right? So if that's what they said, you say, well, as I understand it, you're looking for someone who has 5 years experience in this. I have that. You're also looking for someone with this educational qualification. I got that too. I got that with honors. You're also looking for someone who has skills in this area. And I have that also. So the idea is that you're building a very compelling case. You're reiterating to them how you have the requirements, but in addition to that, you're using it as the reason why they should hire you because you seem to have everything they're looking for. So you seem like the obvious fit, right? That's the case you're going to give. So the way I would articulate that is if they say, so why should we hire you or why should I hire you? You say, well, as I understand it, you're looking for someone who has, and then you list the requirements and say how you have them, okay? Or at least speak to them. Okay, now let's answer some questions that people might be wondering about this answer, okay? What if you don't meet all the requirements? That's an obvious question that a lot of people have, right? So if you, let's say they're looking for someone who's got experience, qualifications, and skills, right? Now, of the experience, they say they're looking for someone who's got, let's say 5 years experience doing something, right? Now, as you have indicated on your resume and in your application, you actually don't have 5 years experience in that. You have, say, 3 years, okay? So the natural question is, if I don't meet the requirements, should I bring them up or should I speak about them? And the answer is, when I say you answer this question by going down the requirements and talking about how you speak to them, speak to them doesn't necessarily mean that you meet them. Speak to them means that they are not going to be a problem for you. For example, if they're looking for 5 years experience in, say, being a supervisor or something, you could say, well, I have 3 years experience working directly as a supervisor, but before I worked as a supervisor, I did this other type of work. And one of my duties occasionally in that role was to supervise some of my coworkers when the boss was gone. I was given that task on an informal basis. So I do have additional supervisory experience. I have about 2 years of supervisory experience if you count that, which you should. Even though my job title wasn't supervisor, I still did that. So therefore, I actually have 5 years experience as a supervisor. And as I understand it, that's what you're looking for. So you see how, even though you technically don't meet the requirements, if you come up with a logical argument why that requirement is not going to be an issue for you doing the job, then a lot of times that's all the recruiter is looking for. Okay? Sometimes on job descriptions, when they list requirements, not everything on there is a hard requirement that you must have. A lot of the things in that list are often nice to haves. So it's great if you have that, but it's not a deal breaker if you don't actually meet it in every sense. Okay, so all you have to do when you make a case for yourself in a job interview is speak to the requirements, which means that you address how that requirement is not an issue and it's not going to interfere with you being able to do the job properly. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Okay, some additional points for this question. Let's see here. Now, what I recommend is if you're doing an in-person interview, okay, if you're physically across the table from a recruiter asking you this, or a hiring manager, then you can certainly do this. Now, if you're doing a virtual interview, you'll have your own version of this, okay? But if you're having a physical interview, I recommend that you bring several papers to the job interview. Are papers passé? Absolutely not. And there's a lot of red flags or concerns if you put like a tablet or a smartphone or something on the table. There's a lot of issues with that. They don't know if you're recording them. They don't know if you're distracted. But so it's still okay to use paper. So bring several papers to the job interview. One will be a copy of your resume. One will be a copy of the job description. Okay, so you'll have the copy of the job description with you. What I recommend is you put that on the table in front of you. Okay, now before you go to the interview, what's really useful is if you take a highlighter, okay, like a highlighter pen, and you highlight one word or so on each of the requirements that they listed in the job posting. So if you have the paper in front of you and you have the requirements all kind of highlighted, like one word that jogs your memory as to what they said they wanted, you can quickly glance down at that, without like reading it right off the page and without like breaking eye contact. You can just glance down, so you don't have to memorize what the job requirements were. You can just glance and see what they were. And during the course of the interview, your goal should be to speak to every single one of them, right? And this question is a big opportunity to do that, right? So you don't have to memorize the requirements or anything. You can have it on a paper in front of you. That really helps, okay? Make sure that you're still making eye contact, you're not reading papers. Now, another question, this is the final sort of part of this. A natural question that people might wonder is, let's say you were in a job interview and they've already asked you questions like, tell me about yourself, or other questions where you've already mentioned that you have the requirements. Okay, so now they ask you this question. They say, why should we hire you? And you're wondering, well, wait a minute. I know I have to speak to the requirements, but I already mentioned all the requirements. I already said that I have them. What do I do now? Right? Here's the deal. Basically, you're wondering, can you repeat yourself? And the answer is yes. Yes, you can. Okay? In fact, a lot of times it's good if you do, because, there's all these principles like, how much of what we say do people really remember and understand? It's very little. It's like 10% or 20% or whatever it is. So, if you mention something once in an interview, it might not have registered with the recruiter. They might have been writing something down while you were talking or distracted or something. So it's actually a good thing if you say more than once that you meet the requirements. And it's also an opportunity to back it up in a different way, to illustrate it in a different way. Okay? So what I recommend is that, yes, you absolutely can repeat yourself. If you said, I have a degree in this, you absolutely can say that again if it's the answer to their question. And that's certainly the case here. Okay. The other thing is that what may be going on is that if they ask you a question again where the answer kind of is saying something that you've already said, it can signal that you weren't actually as successful as you think in conveying that you do actually have this requirement, right? You think you've made yourself clear earlier that you have this, but for whatever reason, the recruiter might not have picked up on that or might not have remembered it. So it's actually a good thing that you emphasize that point, and it gives you an opportunity to back it up and or clarify it or give some corroborative detail, to further help them get the point that you have that and you are indeed qualified. Okay, so say different ways of backing it up. If you're talking about experience, now is an opportunity to qualify that experience. This is what I did specifically, that kind of thing. So yes, you can repeat yourself. Don't think that you can't repeat yourself if they keep asking you questions that essentially have the same answer, okay? I just want everyone to know that. Don't say the exact words verbatim, that might seem kind of weird, but you definitely can make the same points, okay? So to sum up, if they ask you in a job interview, why should I hire you? What I recommend is you start off by saying, well, as I understand it, you're looking for someone who has, and then you go down the requirements and you have them all. You speak to them and you say, well, that's why I think I should hire you, because I seem to be a perfect fit. So there you go. That would be my recommendation on this after a rocky start.